Yo, what's good guys, Nicholas Pickles here, and today I will be giving you guys the best tips and strategies to gain the most RP in World's Edge ranked. No matter what rank you are, these tips should be useful. Let's get right into it. These tips and strategies aren't in any specific order, so stick around to the end of the video. For the first tip, we will start at the very basics. Controller settings. I made a separate video about my controller settings, which I play on Xbox One. I will put a card on the top right of the video if you're interested in watching my controller settings. Video. Now, obviously everyone prefers different settings, but to keep it basic, no matter your playstyle, I recommend playing on 110 field of view. If you're on console, I recommend button puncher, which is the right joystick is to crouch and be in Xbox, or O on PS4 is to punch. This is my personal favorite button layout for the simple reason that you don't have to take your finger off the joystick to slide and strafe, which makes it so much easier to strafe. Alright, with the controller settings done, let's get into actual in-game tips you need to know. Let's start out with team composition. Now, somewhere at Kings Canyon ranked, Caustic's still a really good defense legend for blocking off vaults, caves, and endgame buildings, but I feel like the best team for World's Edge is Wraith, Revenant, and Gibby. Now, I know I don't play ranked that squad because I'm a Bloodhound main, but our squad usually runs Wraith, Bloodhound, and Pathy or Caustic. When it comes to World's Edge, there isn't one team that will just completely dominate over other. It remains solely upon positioning, which brings us to our next tip, positioning. Positioning can be hard for new players, but if you keep dying to teams that have high ground, I recommend trying to play characters such as Wraith or Pathy to try to catch the enemy off guard and take high ground, ultimately the advantage. Even Caustic works if you have his ultimate and then use a Pathy zipline to maintain high ground. High ground obviously isn't the only important factor in a fight. You still have to focus on zone and where it'll end. The goal of any end zone is to have high ground. When you have high ground, everyone lower than you has a disadvantage. Surely you can still lose with high ground, but if you play it smart and don't stand still for a Kraber to bop you in the face, you should easily be able to take out the last squad, especially if you landed a good landing location that set you up for a good end zone, which brings us to our next tip, the best landing locations. Now, personally, my top 3 landing locations are Harvester, Epicenter, and Mirage. Now, when it comes to Harvester, it has great loot and rarely teams ever contest you. But if you have set landing locations to get the guns first, it's easy to wipe them really quick. Now, at Epicenter, it is usual to have 1 or 2 squads contest you, but when contesting squads, remember where the guns spawn and try and land there first to easily knock an enemy who has not yet had a gun or a very bad one. The reason why we sometimes go Mirage is simple. There are always at least 2 or more squads contesting, and if we play it right, we come out of Mirage with 3 or more kills and assists, which we can then play it a little more passive throughout the game, which leads us to rotations. When we land Harvester, we have very rarely any kills and assists, so then usually make our way to Sorting Factory or Fragment to try and capitalize on the winning teams of the location. After we would make it out of Fragment or Sorting, we would most likely have full kills and assists, so we would play the end zone and get high ground. When we land Epicenter, we usually have a couple kills and assists, so then make our way to Refinery, which is right behind Epicenter. There's usually a squad or 2 there that we can catch off guard or third party for easy points. After Refinery, we make our way to Fragment. There they may be a team or 2. After that, we usually wait it out for the end zone and move when we need to, try not to get gatekeeped, which is our next tip, gatekeeping. Gatekeeping is a good way to capitalize on a team that is coming out of zone lane. Now, personally, World's Edge is harder to gatekeep due to multiple different options you have to get into zone. Now, if you're in endgame, there are very few ways to get into zone, so be sure to capitalize on teams that are struggling to get into zone. Now, if you're the one being gatekeeped, the only thing you can do is hope you have enough meds to make it around to a different part of the zone, or hope that the team fighting you gets third party, which doesn't happen often. The most important lesson here is always be in zone and don't rotate to zone late to be caught off guard by a team. Next important tip I want to talk about was gun combos. World's Edge is a much more open and bigger map than Kings Canyon, and to capitalize on this, I recommend always having a G7, Hemlock, or any other sniper. I run myself with a Prowler and R9 all the time, and I still try to push my Prowler with a G7 most of the time just to try and gain an advantage of someone peeking. I could make a whole video on how good the G7 is. Headshots double tap on that thing make enemies one hit and are good to make teams stop focusing on you. Now, obviously any gun combo works, but I recommend trying the G7 R9 combo, which seems to work very well on World's Edge. Now, obviously, Apex is very RNG based, and I find myself only dying in teams with better armor than me every once in a while. But even if you have blue for 3/4 of the game, it still gives you a chance to fight against purple and above armor. Now, when it comes to gunfights, the first thing I look for is if we have enough meds and good enough position to take this team on. Now, if we do, I try and figure out who they're playing to know what to expect in the fight. So using a Revenant Caustic, I usually just won't push with my pants down because Caustic is super good at trapping you in rooms and secluding you to certain rooms, while Revenant's Death Totem can easily take me out and leave my team to a 2v3, which brings us to staying with your team. This has to be the most crucial part and what a lot of people don't do. When you start getting into diamond and pred lobbies, teams are rarely ever split, and it's hard to take on a 1v3 of good players yourself even if you catch them off guard. I always think about like 3 guns will always take out 1, and the fact that you can't shoot all 3 of them at once. So my main lesson is try and stick with your team as much as possible. Now if you find a team that is split, you should definitely focus on one of them to make the fight a 2v3, which is a lot easier than a 3v3. No shit. Now the last tip I have for you guys is how aggressive you should be in ranked. Now I know a lot of ranked tip guides say that you can't be aggressive in ranked, which is very untrue. You just have to be passive aggressive, which means take on fights where you feel you have an advantage or an easy way to get out of the fight. I find myself as an aggressive player, and surely it has lost some games, but it has worked out more times than when it didn't. Even if you have 5 kills and assists, if you feel like you can take out the squad and you have an advantage, I highly recommend pushing them and being the aggressor, especially if the fight is over high ground or end zone. I do find myself multiple times a game only pushing teams for the positioning, which makes sense if you're trying to win end zone over. Alright guys, these are all the tips I have to gain RP and World's Edge ranked. Obviously a huge part of Apex is accuracy, but there's nothing in a video I can teach you about accuracy. All that takes practice and grinding. Same with all the tips in the video, because you might not be able to be successful at all of them. If you think I missed anything in the video, please be sure to put it in the comments. If you guys would like me to do a video where I commentate over my ranked gameplay, get this video to 40 likes. Also, please share this video with your rank squad so they can learn all the fundamentals of ranked. Thank you guys for tuning in to the end of the video, and I will see you guys next video or live stream. Have a great day and stay productive with your lives.
Pickle, 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 pickle.